Hey guys, Silly here, and if you're looking for a Lighthouse guide that shows you every best place to loot after we've had some time to explore the map, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, we got the northern road spawn, or sorry, this is the southern road spawn. And the first place I like to look when I spawn here is the cottages down by the beach. Actually, let's pop in SJ6. I'll meet with you guys when I get there. One thing to note when you're going to the cottages is that players can spawn on the beach. So you have to be a little careful depending on what time you're playing, because if you're playing during a busy time, you gotta be wary for the players who spawn alongside the beach, as well as up on the cliffs up there. But anyway, here we are at the little destroyed beach village by the lighthouse. There's a couple spawns I want to let you guys know about that a lot of people miss up. There's Moonshine that can spawn right in front of here, as well as some other very valuable rations, as well as streamer items can spawn right here in front of this porta potty. Alongside here, we have any good hardware spawns. We also have some streamer item spawns on this bench, as well as some more hardware spawns in front of it. Inside here, we have a bunch of your hardware spawns. So this is going to be your hideout items and all that. Looting through this building, make sure you look at the ground because they all spawn on the ground scattered around. That's where you'll find those items. Now, if you go back to the building just behind it, and this is another great spot to loot that not many people hit, is in this shed here. You're going to have more hardware spawns, as well as you can have fuel that spawn in here. And you have a toolbox in case you're looking for toolboxes. Just in this doorway now, and this is my favorite spot, is a lot of rare valuable items can spawn here. So your Bitcoin, your roller, your vases, your lines, they can spawn in this little area. Sometimes if you have a Bitcoin, you might have to, again, look for that loot dot, throw it in here. It can spawn underneath these like jeans or this jacket here. This time we got a kvass. And just in here we have a duffel bag. Some other rare ration spawns. You see we got a sugar right there. Never sleep on those ration spawns because sugar is crazy expensive. You want to look in this little box. All these little boxes on this map, you'll see a pattern here. You want to be looking in them because they can spawn things like Bitcoin that spawn underneath or clip underneath the box, and you won't be able to see them, but they'll be in there. So get that loot dot in those boxes. And we have a duffel bag and a dead scab if you want to loot him. I like to loot the dead scabs because the dead scabs could have things like slicks and a bunch of items. They can have meds. They can have like some of your sample syringes and stuff like that. But after we loot that, we're going to run up this path here. And we're going to head towards the smoke. And the smoke is going to take us to a crashed helicopter. But one thing I want to point out on the way, and this is actually something I noticed while making a dry run for this video, is there's actually a hidden stash up here. So if you just run up this hill here, through these trees, over these rocks right here, in the direction of the fire. Ooh, let's get over here, down this flat surface here. Right here is a stash. As you see, the helicopter's right there. I'll show you a better view of it. So the helicopter is just down there. So if you came around and look for this flat rock surface, stash is just up back there. But now we're going to go to the crash helicopter. This is also another big place I like to loot because a lot of the items are just kind of hard to see, or people just don't generally check here. So we have a toolbox here, and around the toolbox they can spawn various like hideout items or technical items. On the other side we have rare med spawn that can spawn around the blood pool here, so that can be like your golden star, your sample injectors, or you know, things like ibuprofen for your crafting. So a lot of expensive med spawns around this blood here, so always look in here. You have a med box, you have a splint right here, so a bunch of med spawns all littered throughout. I've also got military cables around the helicopter here, so it's another good spot to check out. Around this campfire here, you can find a bunch of ration spawns, so you can even find things like vodkas. I've seen sugars here before. You want to look for that. And another place, after we've looted the campfire and the helicopter, which is one of my favorite spots. I don't even know what to call it. Seems like a scab just got tired one day after, you know, freely looting the water treatment plant from the rogues. Set up a chair here, you know, have a brewskis. Bitcoin's spawn in that chair. I'm assuming you can probably also get like your rollers and stuff like that as well. It's part of the same loot pool, so good thing to check. After checking the chair, we run up this road in the direction of the black SUV. So let's go ahead and start running that way. This area is also another very highly contested place. This is probably one of the best areas to loot, if not the best, outside of the water treatment plant, which we'll get to later on. So when running into this building, you got to be careful of other players. Players could be, sniping you. They could be watching this building. Just be mindful of that. But we're going to run right up to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a right into this sports building. There is a med bag here if you're looking for medical items. There is a hardware spawn, hideout spawn. You can get bolts, stuff like that. Metal parts just right here. And there's a ration spawn on the table. So I always like to check those because no one really does. Okay, so now we're actually going to get into the Usec Chalet or resort. This is the one with the darker black roof. First thing we're going to do is going to run into the garage. You want to look on this little table here first because they can basically spawn all your very valuable military spawns, like your tank battery. They can spawn right here, or the M cables. There's a toolbox right here. Along all of these tables, you can find various hideout items, even injectors. I found some mule injectors on this table here. Make sure you're looking along the ground as well. Things can spawn on the ground, as well as a hardware spawn in this wheelbarrow. There's also one more hardware spawn, which is right about here. You'll see some items right about there. So now as we get into the Usec Chalet, this is an amazing building. As you can see right here, this spot where the ASA is can spawn basically all your very valuable items like bitcoins, spawn your very valuable hideout items like cyclones. Here's an ASA. So this is an amazing spawn for value. As well, on this chair, you see a lot of bitcoins could be here. GP coins, stuff like that. All along these kitchen tables or counters is some ration spawns. You want to be looking for those sugars. As well as on these red chairs, you can find some very valuable weapon attachments. So there's one there. Right here, you can find a bunch of med spawns. Now this room I call blood room right here. It's the blood, there's a blood splatter right here. There is a sports bag. On this table is another one of your rare valuable spawns. So you can get your bitcoins, your rollers and stuff like that. If you go just out the back from blood room onto this little smaller attachment of this resort, you have a bunch of ration spawns here. Again, be looking for those sugars. We don't want to open this door. There's more ration spawns on the table, but more importantly, you can get things like bitcoins, gold chains. You can get the skull rings all on this table here. So this is an amazing spot to check out. There's a jacket in that corner. So we're going to head right back down, right back in. From the top floor now, you have a med bag right on the white bed here, as well as some meds that can spawn in the sink. Go ahead and open this down. Now if we go across, so we're back into the first floor. There's the kitchen there, and there's the rare value spawns we just looked at. We want to go upstairs. You can get some good ammos on this stack of boxes. You can get some BS rounds, BT rounds, all that stuff there. This is one of the best places to loot in the Usec Chalet / resort. Is up here where the pool table is. They have a big weapon box right here. A bunch of high value spawns right here, so you can get a pro kills, you can get bitcoins, you can get things like vertexes, VPXs, iridium, all that stuff can spawn on here. So all those very rare items, rare valuables or rare military spawns right here, as well as they have some various items on the pool table here. I've seen things like hideout items, bolts, metal parts, but I've also seen rations up there. Now you want to be looking all along the floor down here for more valuable rations or military spawn loot, because on all these tables, as you can see, there's a vertex right there. On all these counters, you can get a bunch of military loot spawns as well, which is very good. Now we're going to run back down to the middle floor, and we're going to want to head to the first hallway on our right till the end and open this white door. So this is a medical room, and the biggest items you're going to find here are the lead X's and the ophthalmoscope. So let's start off with our medical crate right here. This is where you can find your lead X's or O scopes, as well as some meds here. You want to be looking at all of these surfaces just in case. Meds can blend in really well on the ground as well. So feel free to get that loot dot everywhere you can. So after you checked all those places, you're good to move to the next room. Now we can loot the weapon box right here. But we're just going to go down now. And we're going to shoot a hole through this next room here. You can get very valuable spawns here. As you can see, we have an iridium right there. We'll take that. But you can get things like your bitcoins, rare valuable military spawns, rollers, skull rings, along this body. I believe there's 2 spawns, one on the upper part of the body and another by the legs here. So don't forget to check the pool. A lot of people miss that, or even they just don't notice it's there. Like if you get a Bitcoin or a skull ring, you have to get that loot dot in there to be able to see it. So make sure you check that spot. In the pool here, there's a bunch of weapon attachments and ammo, so feel free to look for these. If you go down another level here, you have the tennis court. Now the tennis court in here, you can have very expensive weapon attachments. You can have a M4 that spawns right there. A bunch more weapon attachments. As you can see, there's a few stocks in that. Up on this shelf, you have another weapon crate here. More weapon attachments on this desk here, as well as a weapon box this way. So just coming out of that tent, we have a toolbox right there, and around the back side of these boxes, we have 2 dead scavs you can loot, as well as loose medical items that spawns around these bloody bodies here. Now, I personally like to loot the dead scavs because they can spawn with things like good armors, good guns, and even some meds and injectors that you could use for your samples. One last place I like to look is right up from the tennis court there, the pool, right up these stairs here is this box. As you can see, there's that military cable here, so you can get some very good military spawns up there, as well as some hardware spawns on the ground in front of it. So those are always good spots to loot, especially if you're looking for, or it's late in the raid and you're looking for spots that people might have not checked. But anyways, we're gonna run right on past the Usec resort now. A lot of players like to snipe up here and get a nice little overview over the next building, which is like kind of like the spa building. It has the lighter blue roof, so it's pretty distinguishable. You can walk down these cliffs very safely as long as you just hold S to make sure as you're falling you don't fly off and glide and skate glide, a bug that's been happening in Tarkov recently. Now the first building we're going to loot over here is this blue house slash garage building. What we're going to want to look for is right here where these boxes are can spawn things like fuel or hardware slash tech items, and that's basically what you'll find in the rest of this place. So around this box pile you'll find some things. You want to be looking on the shelves or any surfaces. We have a toolbox here. So where this keg tape is, you can get fuel. I've gotten engines there, stuff like that. Right after the garage, we are going to head up these stairs. One of the biggest places some people miss, and is a great spot to loot, is you have a rare spawn on the chair, as well as a rare spawn on the table. So you can get like rollers here, you can get Bitcoin here, so make sure you always look for those items. As well as at the end here, you can't open any of those doors. You have a duffel bag. You have a spawn right here that spawns some rations. There could be a possible intelligence spawn right there as well. And I think we have some rubles. Yeah, some rubles can also spawn there on the shelf. So now let's head down and get into the actual spa building. So this area isn't as contested because, believe it or not, as big as this building is, there's not a whole lot of very good items to get here. So it's a little safer than the Chalet resort. But there's still some pretty good places to loot. So I like to loot right here. There's some valuable alcohols like your vodkas or like your whiskey can spawn up here. So I always like to look for those. On the left is basically where you can find a crap ton of meds. So if you're looking for meds, actually, this is a nice place to loot. You can get stuff on the stretcher here, all on the ground in front of the stretcher, as well as you can find meds in here, all along these surfaces. You have a med box. They can spawn on the floor as well, so keep an eye on those for those injectors. Injectors like to spawn on the floor. Now in this spa room, I've gotten a bunch of various different types of items. Like I've gotten D-fuel here. I've gotten expensive rations like sugar here. So it's never good or a bad idea to just check this out if you're looting the med spawn anyway. The next thing I like to do from the med area is just run up these stairs. So right out from the meds down there, I run up these stairs. You can get some weapon attachments on the screen tape, as well as on the shelf there, as you can see. We want to be looking at one of 2 safes. So this is a Usec 2 or 1 safe. So if you have the Usec safe keys, these safes are actually like physical safes. So when you open them, you don't search them. They actually have shelves in them that can spawn things like your Bitcoin, your rollers, gold chains, anything like that. So that's where one of 2 safes is. Now I want to run down to the end of the hallway here, past the stairs. There's not much to loot in these other rooms, and in my opinion, it's not really worth your time as a PMC to loot those. So I'll just run by those other rooms, and I come into the last one on the... Actually, I think it's this door right here. Yeah, so you open the door at the end of the hallway, past the stairs. You have the second Usec safe key. Again, this spawns, you know, your rare valuables, your gold chains, your Bitcoin. So that's where both safes are in this building. So if you have the safe keys, it's probably worth hitting the building just for the safes, because, you know, there's some good spawns back there. As well as one other place that I like to loot, which is down this hallway along these metal shelves here. So these metal shelves can spawn things like lions, like your cat statues, your horse statues, and things like that. So you want to be looking at this metal shelving. If you're here, it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're looking for the lions for that quest. So you always want to be looking there. So after we looted the garage and the spa, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to come down towards the road. Now, it's up to you whether you want to loot this depending on how late into the raid you are, or maybe if you're a scav, because you are on the middle of the road and you're very visible and can be shot at pretty much everywhere. A lot of people like to sit up in this sniper area as well, or along any of these cliffs, right? So there's a little bit of risk involved going to these spots, but honestly, it could be worth it, especially if you're in the beginning of the wipe, because there's a lot of military hose spawns, military corrugated hose spawns on these shelves up here. Therefore, if you're at the start of a wipe when they're very much needed, at the start of this wipe, they costed about 1 million rubles per hose. So you want to be looking out for that. But on the first surface here, we have a bolt here. Again, every single box you find that's cracked like that, you want to be looking inside with that loot dock, because Bitcoins could be there. You want to be looking on the surfaces of this trailer. As you can see, there's a hose there. There's an ES lamp there. Very good spawns along all these surfaces as well. Hideout items, military corrugated hoses can be up there. After we've done that, if you have the Merin key, which is one of the huge keys that was added this wipe, popular for many people, you actually run just west of the roads as you hit the end of the spawns over there, and you'll see this red car, and this is the Merin key car. So in this trunk right here, you can spawn your valuables like your gold chains, Bitcoins, stuff like that. So you want to be looking in the car for that, as well as in this beach area. Now this map is so big and there's so much spot to loot, so we'll have to do this in multiple videos. If you run back south from the Merin car, you'll see a bunch of crates and stuff like that littered throughout the beach. Now, all of these crates have chances to spawn very high valuable items. You can get like your vertexes here. You can get very valuable like military spawns, like military cables here. You can get a bunch of very good hideout items as well, like your bolts on all these surfaces. So check all these surfaces of the crates. Here's another one of those open boxes. Again, you're gonna be looking for those Bitcoins in here. Nothing in there. There's another one. We'll be looking in this, nothing in that. At the end, we have 2 more boxes here. Actually, there's a few more down there. Check all of these. As you can see, we have a Zippo there, not the greatest. Check in this box. And then we have a few more this way. And then one last box as well. A good strategy for this area is if you get the spawn towards those beach cottages near the lighthouse that we showed earlier in the video, or you got the spawn I got, after you loot those cottages, you can come this way, especially if you want to go towards the water treatment plant. So you can be looting all of these items along the beach fairly safely. It's not really that contested as you get to the water treatment plant. And if you're feeling risky, you have the Merin car, as well as those items on the street as you're running down this side of the map. So the next area we're actually going to loot is the village. There's the new village, which we're going to loot first, so I'll catch up with you guys as we get there. Really quickly, I would also like to point out that there's these two buildings here, but they don't have the greatest of loot spawns, and they're very risky because they can easily be camped, and it's by the Merin car, which is a pretty contested area. So I typically don't loot these buildings when I'm looting the map. Okay, so now we're in the new village, and this is a great place to loot because a lot of people do pass up on this, especially if people are just trying to farm rogues. So the first building we're actually going to want to check out is this brownish one here on our left. We're going to walk in through the front door. The first place I like to look is down and to the left, right at the end of the hallway. Now this box can spawn things like graphics cards, vertexes, any of those high valuable technical spawns can be right here, so definitely do not forget to take a look at that. Just gonna walk straight down this hallway here. There's nothing too valuable on the downstairs other than that box spawn, so we're just gonna run right up these stairs we came or passed when we first entered the building, and we're gonna run right down here to our right. There is another very rare valuable spawn that can spawn things like GPUs right here next to the laptop on the floor, as well as another sports bag, so don't forget to check that out. You have some more ration spawns on the table. So after exiting that room, first door on our right is this bed. Bitcoins, gold chains, rollers, they can spawn under this bed sheet. So get that loot indicator all over this bed sheet, and chances are someone might have missed a Bitcoin that just simply spawned under it and never checked. So go ahead and look for that. As well, we have a sports bag. We have another jacket there if you want to loot those. To the other side, this is also full of loot. We have two jackets here if you're looking for keys. First door on our left, an intelligence folder can spawn right there. We have a med bag that's right there, as well as I've seen meds spawn on here. I've also seen lions spawn on here. So it's very good to check this bed and see what's going on over there. Toolbox next to the door. In this next room, we have another intel spawn. It can spawn right up in here, in this part of the cabinet. So a very nice little compact building full of loot. After we're finished looting that building, we're actually just going to take a slight right and head up this street. We just came from there, so we went first building on our left. Now we're going to run up the street into this next area. Now this is also a pretty contested area. That building down there, not so much. Up here could be contested. I've seen people try to snipe up on these rocks, kind of watching the building. Here is the hillside house key. In that building, you could find all your rare valuable spawns like Bitcoin, gold chains, rollers. I don't have that key. I usually sell them, but this is a good building to loot. The first building we're going to loot is this building on our right. So opening the front door here, we have a technical spawn up here. We have a technical supply crate right there, so you can find a bunch of nice hideout items as well. We have some ration spawns on these tables here. Very good. You want to be looking for those sugars, of course. Once we're done looting that kitchen area, we're going to open this door. We have a jacket right there we can loot. And here we have a rare valuable spawn. Right here can be like a Bitcoin, for example, a roller. So always check on top of this table stand right there. And now we are going to go up to the top floor of that building. We have an ammo box right here. We have more ration spawns on the table and a sports bag there. Now this is the same bed we found in that other room that can spawn Bitcoins, or in that other house. So I always like to check this bed just in case there's something in there. But I haven't found Bitcoins yet, but it's a possibility. After looting the house, if you want to come into the shed right here, you can find a bunch more hardware spawns, and they'll be littered all over the floor. So that's a flip-flop. But all over here on the ground, there can be some hardware items. There's a tape on this bench there, so check on all the surfaces. Same thing with the next little room here. You're going to be looking on the floor up in here. So on all these surfaces, you can see there's an ES lamp there. Find some stuff. So if you're looking for those hardware items, definitely check out the shed. Now we're going to run past that gate out into the next one. You can jump over these rocks if you like to get in. Now this room, this front door is locked. You have to go around to the back to loot this area. But before we do, another military corrugated hose spawn. So on this shelf here. So look for that, as well as some other various hardware items you can find. That's here, here, here. And again, more jackets are always fun, because who doesn't love keys? We're going to run into the back door. We have a power bank here, so always check for some rare technical spawns up there. A bunch of food can spawn here, like sugars or the dehydrated milks. After looting those areas, I have seen a gold chain down here, so feel free to look for that as well. There's nothing else really in these two rooms unless you're looking for more ration spawns. You can spawn in here. As you can see, there's a bunch of juice there, so if you're looking for those sugars. But now we're going to go up the stairs to the area that's basically full of rare loot spawns. The first room on our left, we want to be looking on this box. It can spawn your iridiums, all those, again, high valuable military loot spawns, your VPXs, stuff like that. GPUs or rare tech items can spawn in front of the computer. As we see, we have a CPU fan right there. In this next room, we can find graphics cards on the table as well, which is very nice and can be easily missed by other players. And once you've looted all of those rooms, we are done with this building. So we're going to go out here, and we are going to head towards Hideout Village, or Hideout City, is what I like to call it. And that's because pretty much every hideout item you're going to need, for the most part, is going to be in this small town. In this first building here, if you open up the gate next to this little bowl, we can go ahead and open this up. Now inside here, you're going to want to be looking for, we have a sports bag right there, as well as an intelligence spawn right next to this bed. Now, honestly, this house never gets looted, so you definitely want to be checking that intel spawn right there. So exiting this building, we're actually going to want to take this path going west down this dirt road, and that's because we're going to take a river crossing to the Hideout Village, the rest of it, as I call it. So we're going to run down here, down this little dock here. You do have to go on the bridge. I've never actually tried that. So we're going to run just along the wooden bridge here. And this is basically the biggest part of Hideout City. There is like every item you could need for your hideout here. Things like bolts, you know, the scissors, the screws, metal parts, anything like that. So in all of these buildings, you want to just be looking on the ground for spawns. Any of these wooden boxes here just count as like toolbox. So they have the same toolbox looting pool, so they can have like metal parts, the glass elite pliers, they could have contacts even, so feel free to check those. I'm not going to go through every single wooden building because it's all about the same with the exception of one of them. This building here, the one in the back, again, you want to be looking on the ground for all those spawns, but this one in the back has this broken box here, and just like the other ones, you want to be looking for your bitcoins and your roller skull rings, stuff like that in there. So, but for the rest of them, you just want to go into each one. You want to look on the floors, and they'll have hundreds of hardware items that you can need, all inside of those ones. I will also say I've seen a lot of thermite on this desk. And thermite is pretty valuable. I think it's vendors for 30 or so K, so that's always a good one to get. So if you're ever looking for hideout items, you want to be coming to the town, especially early wipe. Even if you've fastly progressed most of your hideout, you can sell all those very valuable hideout spawns while everyone's trying to get them, and you'll make a ton of money right there. Hey guys, Editor Silly here, and one more spot I do want to show you once you're done looting up the village right here is if you walk towards the water, you are looking for an ambulance. No, sorry, it's actually a blue van. But in all of these boxes here, you can find some very high value ration spawns like sugars or like vodkas, for example. But the best part is actually if you crouch next to this vehicle in this box right here, you can actually get high value military spawns. You can get like a Vertex in here. I've got one before. And now we continue our run across that bridge. The next place we're gonna go to after checking this box is the rogue camp. Now, I won't cover the rogues in this video. It definitely deserves its own video. For the sake of this loot guide, we're just gonna rock right in, and I'm gonna show you where all the loot is. Okay, so at the entrance here of the military camp, now it's very important you don't walk in this grass. There are mines in this grass, so don't make the mistake of running along the grass. More than that, there's a lot of mines throughout the water treatment plant. So it's a very good idea to just not walk on the grass if you don't have to avoid exploding. So the first place we're going to loot is the launch pad surrounded by these green fences or walls. You want to jump right on in over, and you want to be looking right here, which is a technical supply crate, which is great. You want to be looking in this green tent. Weapon attachments can spawn on this table, up along here on these surfaces. This is another tent that really goes unnoticed. I've heard USBs can actually spawn here, as well as some other very valuable tech spawns. As you can see, there's a 1G phone right around here on the floor or on this table. So don't forget to check that spot out. Cabinets there if you're into looting filing cabinets. Over in this next section, we have a spot for fuel and another rare hardware spawn. So as you can see, we got some pixie glass and T2000 or 200. And once we've done checking those spawns out, we're going to exit this pad and head to the next one by the helicopter. Now, we'll say when you're by the helicopter pad, you're close to some of the roaming rogues, so watch out for that. But again, we're going to cover the rogues separately in another video. We're going to jump down into the helicopter one. We have a weapon box right here. We have a med bag in the helicopter right there, as well as a tank battery can spawn right here on the green carpet or mat. So you always want to be looking out for that, as well as some other military spawns that you can find all throughout here. Once we're done looting that, just behind us here, we have a weapon box. Weapon attachments can spawn on the tables here, as well as this is a technical supply crate as well. So once we're done looting all of those, we are going to walk right up here. And we're going to run over to the green tents, which is behind us. Now this grass won't hurt you. I've ran here many times, so you're pretty safe when you walk around these green tents area. But the first green tent we're going to look at is right here. Now you can get very valuable attachments up on these boxes here. Weapon attachments you can find. This is a rare military spawn. You get some Cyclone there. I've also seen like Iridium and stuff like that in there, in that green box. In the first tent, you have a green weapon crate right here. You have another weapon crate right here, a smaller one. Weapon attachments can spawn up in here, as well as this one too. You can even open that one. So there's 3 right there. And now that they spawn things like slicks and stuff, I do like to loot the weapon crates. And a final weapon crate behind us there. So this next tent with the tubs, nothing really in there, so I don't really check that one out too much. At least I haven't found anything in there. Right here next to the battery and the hammer here is another rare spawn, so you can get like your bitcoins here. So you always want to be checking that spot. You have a toolbox right there. Look on all these surfaces. Right here we have a couple of other spawns. Look on all of these surfaces, as well as a technical supply crate right there. Again, more surfaces. You want to be looking at all of these because you can have expensive weapon attachments or high valuables like bitcoins, rollers, stuff like that. These metal shelves right here will have weapon attachments. And we have a few more tents back here. One more actually. I'm going to be looking for weapon attachments along here and some ammos as well as a black weapon box. So once we're done looting all of the green tents, we're going to want to run straight on past here. This little white building is another spot that not a lot of people check. So it's very good to look in here because they can spawn military corrugated hoses on these shelves here or up in here. So you always want to be making sure you look for those. There's even another one down there where you can also find more military corrugated hoses. It's exactly the same layout as this one, so go ahead and look in that one too. But first, we're actually going to loot the first warehouse. Now, there's 3 of them in the water treatment plant. There's one right there. This is the western one. There's the northern one, number 2. And there's the eastern one, that's number 3. The second warehouse is the one with the best loot. The third warehouse is in the middle, and the first warehouse probably has the worst. If you just remember the phrase, first is the worst, second is the best, you know, that classic saying, then you'll already remember exactly which warehouses you want to loot. So this first warehouse, right on our right, is a weapon box right here. You can go ahead and loot that. Now if we take a left immediately from the entrance as well, all along here, we can find some hardware items or technical items. And you'll see this is about the same throughout all of these warehouses. Except right here in front of the slanted wood is where you can get a possible GPU spawn. So when you're up here, you just want to be looking throughout the ground, making sure you don't miss anything, because basically you can find, you know, your tech items pretty much anywhere alongside the ground here. I didn't really loot these rooms. There's generally not much in them. So we're going to walk down the catwalk here. Again, we're going to keep an eye on the ground for all those technical spawns. But But as we get to this room right here, we have, as you can see right here, an MGT spawn, so you can get some pretty good military items along these shelves here in the back. But let's continue. Down this way, we want to be looking next to this body because a bunch of meds can spawn around this body, just kind of just like the woods body in the convoy, so you can always come down here and check out those meds. When we get down to the bottom floor, if you run along the wall with these water extractors, I'm not really sure what they are, you want to be looking right here. You can find valuable tech items, so like Tetrises and stuff like that can spawn here. I haven't seen GPUs here, but I have seen Tetrises, so I'm wondering if you can find a GPU next to these boxes with this star right here. Keeping an eye on the ground as you walk by all of these. And then we're going to just do the same exact thing on the other side, looking along the edges here to find any items that could be on the ground. Get your loot dot down there just in case you pass something you might have missed. And then once we're done this, we'll be done with the building number 1. Now, as we leave building number 1, we want to be looking on the tops of all of these boxes because they can also have high value technical spawns. We're going to run past these sandbags here, and we're going to take a right over these pipes and head to building number 2. Now, this grass is safe if you run down straight. I've always done it and never blown up. So there is the other white shed to look for those military corrugated hoses. The one that we mentioned earlier. We're going to run down this grass here to building number 2. This is the best one in terms of loot, in my opinion. Another thing I quickly want to point out just before we get into warehouse 2 is if you go beside this truck here on this table, there's an intel spawn. So you don't want to miss that. Intel's great, especially when you use it for things like the hideout or the scav case in particular. You can get a lot of good valuables with the intel. Run through this little gate. And we're going to jump over this pipe. Actually, we can't because we're bad. We're going to crawl under the pipe. And we're going to go ahead and walk in here. Now, all of these blue shelving units here can spawn high valuable technical spawns. So as you can see, we have a Tetris right here. I want to be looking along all of these to get some good loot, as well as some various hideout items. As you can see here, another sewing kit that's also pretty expensive. That's nice. It's good for bartering or just selling. And we have another sewing kit right there. So you do not want to sleep on these blue shelves. Always make sure you look through each of them. Now we're going to want to walk upstairs. We're on the left side of the building now. We're going to look for those tentacle spawns just like the other ones. We're going to be tracing the ground to make sure we don't miss any items. Now you can get graphics cards up here. And I believe it's right here is where you can get the graphics card if it spawns. So always make sure you look for that. As well as we're going to keep an eye on everything else. Same situation in here. Usually there's not too much in here I find, but I always check them just in case. So we're going to continue our way throughout the tops here. We have a weapon box right here if you want to loot that. Looking at the ground. Again, same deal here. Although this one can spawn grenades, and actually I've seen a gold chain over here. So you can get valuable spawns here and grenades on this one. So I always check this one. And if we keep going down throughout here, you can get another graphics card throughout these boxes. Right where the CPU is, actually I think it is. Right there. So always check that graphics card spawn. We can also get graphics cards right here. So always check this. Right where the elite pliers is, you can get a graphics card. As we continue looting through the building, we want to go right back into this generator area. A tank battery can spawn on this little table. So we always want to be checking that. And here we have more tentacle spawns in between. So always be looking on the floors. Tentacle spawn on the boxes right there. Now let's go back. Again, looking in between here on the floor, especially around this fire, you can find food, rations, ammo, as well as more technical spawns on these blue shelves here. So there's another blue shelf back here behind the fire. A lot of people missed that one. So we're just about done with building number 2 now. And we're going to make our way all the way down out the eastern side of it towards the eastern building number 3. So let's go ahead here. Perfect. So when you enter building number 3, Again, same looting plan. You want to run up to the rafters. You want to be looking at all the grounds for those technical spawns. As you can see, we got 2 hoses here, right up here. There's another GPU spawn up here. I believe it's this one right here where this hose is. By these boxes, a GPU can spawn there. So you do want to be checking that. Here's another one of these broken boxes. So again, look for those Bitcoins in there. We're going to ignore this room on our left. I've never really seen anything spawn there, so I'm just going to walk by it. Again, we're going to look on the ground for the rafter spawns. Then we're going to come into this last room here, and there could be a gold chain spawn, valuable spawn up here in front of these computers. So don't forget to look for that. Coming down from the rafters, we want to be looking on all of these surfaces for more hardware or technical spawns. Let's go ahead and give a look to all of these. We have more spawns on top of these boxes as well. On top of these boxes, again, this is another one of those Bitcoin spawns. Oh, what did we find? We found something. It is the skull ring. So that's a perfect example of an item that could be hidden in one of those boxes. So make sure you always check that. Now we also want to run along the sides of this building. You can find more spawns. So I have a hose here. You basically loot these buildings the same you would loot the other ones, so it's not too bad. Again, all along here, you want to be looking on the sides. Okay, so after you're done looking in this corner, the only other place I sometimes check is this dead scav, because I love the dead scav loot. But after you loot the scav, we're actually going to go on to the next area. We are finally finished with the water treatment plant. So we're going to go ahead and make our way to the train station. Okay, so I know I did say earlier that the Usec Chalet is probably the best spot to loot other than the water treatment plant, but I stand corrected. This is probably the best spot to loot other than the water treatment plant, and I think that's for a few reasons. One, a lot of people find something good in the water treatment plant and just leave. They don't make their way here. And 2, there's so many valuable spawns here, people are bound to miss them. So what you're going to want to focus on is on the tops of these boxes and stuff like this, as well as all of those broken open wooden crates. There are so many of those wooden crates in this area that you're bound to find some good military loot, bitcoins, rollers, and even some great spawns for some corrugated hoses. So right here, there's a survival lighter. So on top of any of these surfaces here, you can find a bunch of good hideout items all over the place. Here's one of those open boxes, so we're gonna want to look in all of those. Go around here. Again, all of these wooden surfaces, make sure we're keeping an eye on those. Here's more of these boxes. So on top of these boxes, here, around the boxes. Then you want to come up and check some of these surfaces as well. More hideout items. Right here we have, what is this, augmentin, so we can get some meds up on there. All these wooden surfaces, make sure you look at all of them. Now as we run down alongside this crane here, we're going to be doing the same thing, looking on top of any surfaces, like these boxes here, around these trucks. Here's a good spot to look for. I've seen some corrugated hoses around here, as well as some other spawns around these weapon crates. So always good to check those. Now we're going to continue making our way through all these shipping containers. Another massive corrugated hose spawn is right here on the ground. You can find many there. In fact, I found most of all of that I needed for my hideout right there. And just behind those boxes, we have the fuel tank area. So what we're going to be wanting to look for on the ground should be a bunch of fuel tanks all up in between, as well as more of these boxes that you want to look on top of and inside. So let's go ahead and look at all of these to make sure. Check for fuel tanks back here as well. See if you can find any. On top of this surface, you can find some more hideout items. And now we're going to make our way over towards the actual train extract, the rail where the train arrives and the train station. And as we do that, we're going to check more of these boxes and surfaces on the way. Let's go ahead. Now I think we do actually have to go up the ramp. Unfortunately, you can't jump. Actually, yeah, you can't. So you do have to go up the ramp. I'm on the back here, so I will go ahead and do that. In here we have more hideout item spawns on all of these surfaces. I believe there's a corrugated host spawn back here by the bricks, as well as some hideout items can spawn on these bricks as well. Let's continue. I'm gonna keep going here. We're gonna check all of these boxes, make sure we don't miss any for more items. Loot can spawn on all of these. This green crate with the light right next to the massive crane system here is a shipping container full of weapon attachments. So you feel free to go in here and look at all of these boxes. We are quickly going to check all of these surfaces here as well. All these wooden boxes are just full of items. Of course, this is an offline raid and we're not finding them right now, but they will be there when you check. So we have some more ration spawns around here on these boxes. And finally, we're going to cross the plank onto the next section of the train. We have a propane here. So again, hideout items all along these boxes here, along these surfaces. As you can see, we just triggered the train extract, but there's no train here. More open boxes down this ramp here. So again, look inside of these, on these boxes here, even on top of these ones. You want to jump up, make sure you're looking at all of those, all along here. These boxes as well. Make sure we're looking at all of these things. And then finally, the train building. So in the train building, we're basically going to want to look for all of the hideout spawns, as well as in these boxes before we enter. All of these shelves you see here, these surfaces included, as we can see, we have a hose there. All of these shelves will have various different hideout items. So if you're looking for hideout items, day one out the gate, this is an amazing spot. As you can see, hand drill, toolboxes. We have keck tape here. We're going to keep going through all of these. Right, we have more shelves, more shelves. Look on top of all the little boxes here. Sometimes it'll be hard to see items, so you want to get that loot indicator right up in their face, all on these shelves as well. And by the end of this, you should be absolutely full of loot, especially if you hit all of these spots in one run without dying to either rogues, players, or player scavs, because they're abundant here. Then yeah, you'd easily make, without question, a couple million, if not more. So after we've just finished looting the train building, the last place on the map we can look for is on these surfaces, just for a few more items. We have the fire clean right here. That is a lucky find. So again, these surfaces all up in here. And after that, we are officially done looting Lighthouse. So everyone, there you have it. Now you know all of the amazing places on Lighthouse to loot. Now, of course, there's going to be some areas I didn't fully cover. This guide isn't going to show you every possible spawn on the map, but it's definitely going to show you everywhere you can find very valuable items. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this helped you out. And let me know if I helped you find something you didn't know was there. If you have any more questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below, or join me on my Twitch stream, where I stream almost every other day and have some fun with Escape from Tarkov. See you in the next one.